If you've noticed the cost of fuel has risen significantly recently, you're not alone. In fact, it's one of the contributors to the inflation that we're seeing. Our fuel bill has gone through the roof. We don't want to just throw our hands up in the air and think, well, what do I do? Do I have to go out and spend all this money buying an EV and upgrading my vehicle? There's actually things you can do right now to your current vehicle that's going to help you save money while you're actually out on the road and cut your fuel bill down significantly. And these things add up over time, so why wouldn't you want to do them? Let's take a look at what that is right now. So one of the things you can do is actually check your air filter. Your engine is actually taking air in by the second, and that air comes through the air filter. And if your air filter is actually dirty or blocked or it's in bad condition, it actually makes the engine work harder to suck that air through. So increasing the air volume through your intake system by ensuring that your air filter is clean is going to make a big difference. Pretty easy to check. You just open up the air box like so, and you can pull out the actual air filter itself. You can see this one's pretty dirty. Luckily, I'm getting a service on Monday, and this bad boy is going to be changed. So it's not too far away from being renewed. But if you can see that, all that dust coming out of that air filter there, that's going to create your engine to work harder, and that's going to cause you to use more fuel. So if you're not sure how to check your own air filter, get a professional to do it for you, get your mechanic to look at it, but it's something that you can do very easily, and it doesn't cost that much money to replace, but it certainly make a big difference in your fuel tank and your fuel consumption. If you're worried about your consumption, you can always talk to your mechanic about it. Get them to check things like your spark plugs, get them to check your fuel filter, because any of those sorts of things that are causing restrictions to your engine are going to make a difference. So it might not be something that you can do personally yourself, but certainly you can get the help of someone who can, and they can check those things for you. Obviously things like spark plugs, it's going to create a difference in how it burns, and that is of course if you're running a petrol engine. We've got a diesel here, so we don't need to check that, for instance, but in your vehicle you might have something that's going to be affecting what's happening with your engine and how the combustion process is working. So these things add up. Don't also forget too, if you can adjust your air conditioning dial down a little bit, so instead of running on the coldest temperature it can possibly do, actually add a few degrees higher, it's going to make a difference with the outcome of the load on that engine. So the more the air conditioning needs to kick in and cycle, the more drain it puts on your engine, because it's just another pump that the engine has to turn. Another thing we can consider is what we're carrying in the back of our vehicle that's not necessary. For instance, are you carrying around a fridge or a water carrying device like a jerry can or something like that when you simply don't need it? Unless you're going on a trip or something like that, why are you carrying this stuff around with you? Have a look at what's being carried in the back of your vehicle and ask yourself the question, do I need this right now? And if I don't, you can take this out, reduces the weight of the vehicle, which takes the load off the engine. The engine has to pull all this around, and every time you accelerate off from the lights or taking off out of your own driveway, you're actually going to be using more fuel with the more weight you have on board. So if you can reduce your weight, you're going to reduce your fuel bill. While we're still on the subject of your vehicle, think about other things that might be placing a drag on your engine. Things like roof racks, for instance. If you've got roof racks on top of your vehicle, do they really need to be there at the moment? Can you unscrew them, take them off, put them on when you need them to? That excess wind drag is actually going to be slowing your vehicle down, placing again more stress on your engine, and that's going to be causing your fuel consumption to increase. Reducing the drag on your vehicle as you're going forward is actually going to create a big difference for your fuel consumption. If your tires are worn out, that could also be another thing that's going to create a rolling resistance that your vehicle's got to overcome. So again, it's going to add to your fuel consumption. Don't also forget, while you're getting your tires replaced or looked at, getting a wheel alignment done too. If your wheel alignment is out, again, your vehicle's got to push through that. So for instance, if your tires are towing in, where that's a bit like your front tires are pointing in towards each other, your vehicle's got to push through that toe in. And the same thing is if it's towing out, it's going to do the same. You've got to push through that the whole way. So wheel alignment can actually help you with your fuel economy too. There's lots of potholes around. We might be hitting those, we could be throwing our wheel alignment out, and it only needs to be out by a millimeter or so, and it will affect your actual fuel consumption. So take a look at your wheel alignment, take a look at your tires, and all the other things that we've been talking about are going to add up to a better outcome for you. Another really obvious thing that we can do is actually checking our tire pressures. So your tire pressures over time will actually decrease, and that's because the tire that your vehicle is fitted with is porous. It's actually constantly letting the air out. So keep yourself a good tire pressure gauge on board and checking your pressures. So at the moment we're running about 42.5. I probably want to pump these up in this vehicle to about 45 and taking that rolling resistance away from my vehicle, which is another thing that the engine needs to overcome. So these tire pressures are probably a little bit down for consumption. They're going to work okay as the tire and do the right thing, but from a consumption point of view, we could probably get a bit better out of these tires at the moment based on the tire pressure that we currently have. If you're not checking your tire pressures every 2 weeks, you are actually potentially going to be running around a tire that's underinflated, and it's going to cost you fuel, and every time you go to that Bowser, it's going to increase your costs. So we can actually stretch this out. Another thing that we can do apart from the tires and the things that we've just mentioned is actually modifying our driving style. So if you're keeping a bigger gap to the vehicle in front, you're going to be able to monitor the traffic ahead and adjust your driving style. And you can also employ those things to make your trip safer as well. So not only are you reducing your fuel bill, you'll actually be a lot safer by doing that. So your driving is going to be probably one of the biggest things that we can modify to actually make your vehicle use its fuel a lot longer in your tank range and actually extend your mileage out, which is going to obviously save you over time. If these tactics can save you 1 or 2 liters per 100, that's going to add up at the moment over 1,000 kilometers or even 10,000. So hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully you can make some of these changes and it will actually help reduce your fuel bill and put some more money back in your pocket.